You probably should have just turned the camera on at the beginning when you first got up here because you probably got the best stuff. So
Maybe. Well, all right. Well, I'm here on John Beveridge's back porch, and I'm with John. And maybe some of you may not know. So, John, let me just introduce you briefly. John has been. How long? When did you first come back to New Life?
2003.
2003. Yeah. So,
Yep.
a year after I got here. It's been
Yep.
a while.
Right.
John is currently one of the elders at New Life here, and we sit down. We want to talk a little bit today about the whole moving to the gym, worship service back there, and
Yep.
kind of how that came about and what some of the thought processes are for it. So let's just start with the worst one first, John.
Okay.
Let's talk about the whole social distancing thing, because at the heart of it, the biggest part of moving back to the gym has to do with the social distancing.
Right. Exactly.
So why is social distancing important? And do we have to do it?
Well, the thing that you and I have been talking about is that it is the thing out of all the advice we've been given. It is the one thing that has been pretty consistently, like everyone seems to agree that social distancing is what helps, stop the spread of this virus. So there's all the other advice we've had. You can get, everybody's on one end of the spectrum or the other. We talked about masks. Do we wear a mask? Do we not wear a mask? There's a lot of conflicting advice about that. But the distancing, everyone pretty much universally agrees that abiding by that is the thing.
Makes a difference.
Yeah, that's
Makes
going to make a difference.
So I need to get my tape measure out because I'm not sure you're 6 feet away from me.
Well,
here.
we're making a good effort.
Yeah.
And that's all we're asking out of everybody is just to make a good,
Yeah.
make a good effort.
So it's not about the legal 6 foot thing. It's more about keeping some space, trying to make sure that I'm not closing in on somebody else, and therefore raising the chances of spreading something.
Right.
etc. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Well, how long are we going to have to do this social distancing thing? Because it's really just annoying.
Yep, it is. It's frustrating. And I think that most of us are over all of it here locally, that...
I've had several people say to me, oh, this thing went through in February, March, and it's all over now.
That's right. That's right. And there certainly is something to be said for that. I can remember that Sunday in February when I turned to my wife and I said, there's a whole lot of sick people in church today. And sure enough, the next week there were a whole lot of people down. But the bottom line is we don't know how long, and we don't know if it's going to make another swing through here again, if it did in fact show up,
Yeah.
And so that's where we just need to be set up to, be able to be together for the long haul. And so that's why we're making the change that we're making now, because we aren't sure how long we need to do that. And we know that the setup that we did here for these last 2 weeks was, the thing that we could get up and running quick, and we're grateful for all the work that you and Drew and Chris and everyone else has done to get that set up for us. But what we saw when we sat down and looked at, 4 or 5 different options, that, making the use of the gym, going ahead and making good use of that space lets us get everyone, in one room, still do a reasonable amount of social distancing.
Yeah, it's a bigger room.
It's bigger.
And chairs give us better flexibility than pews.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do all of those things. It's a big lift. This week has, been a big lift for you guys in terms of getting that all put together. But it's, a big lift over a very focused amount of time. And it's going to make it a little easier on, in terms of
In the end.
in terms
Yeah.
of number of volunteers we got to have in order to do that. We
So let's talk for a minute about that, John, because
Sure.
we looked at I think four, maybe a little bit more than that options, and several of the options involved having multiple services,
right,
which
right.
then requires volunteers to be there for both services, or two sets of volunteers, one for each service, and it also requires cleaning in between.
Right.
And that building is just not easy to sanitize everything. You think about every place on the wall somebody might have touched, and every chair and
Right.
pew back and all that kind of stuff. There's just a lot.
Right. It's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah.
And especially if you're trying to turn it over to have two services in the same day, that kind of thing is a lot to ask.
So all of those factors came into play, but none of them were really the biggest factor, were they? I think, at least for me, when I was in that room, it felt like the biggest factor to all the guys was the idea of being able to keep everybody together.
Right. Right. Absolutely. That's I've been back in the gym the last 2 Sundays with my family, watching the stream, and it's okay, it's good, and I appreciate the efforts in doing that, but I think that it'll be great if we can all be together in one room, and so I'm looking forward to it from that perspective. So
I am as well, and it's not going to be. In my mind, I just think people are thinking this is going to be like some of the programs we've had in the gym in the past, where the sound was marginal at best, and it was muffled, and you couldn't see things very well. Projections
Right.
were dark, and those kinds of things. But it's not going to be that.
Right. Yep.
We are doing everything we can to make sure we're moving all of the sound equipment from the auditorium back there, so we have the best sound system we have set up back there. We're getting projections screens that are rear projector screens that are supposed to be brighter and brighter projectors. We've got lights that are coming in that are LED lights that are the newest, latest, greatest. I mean, we're really putting the effort in to try to make sure that when you get in there, it's going to be a real worship service, and that hopefully the fact that we're in a different room will fade into the background as we worship together.
Right. Right. Exactly. And along with that, the other thing that we've done that is happening with this is, in the past experiences everyone's had, we've got that stage that's kind of on the north side of that room. We're not going to be using that. In order to make the social distancing work better, we're actually shifting the stage over to the west wall. So with the whole flow of it, we're going to ask everybody to come in on the east side of the building, and kind of file in where everyone normally goes into the gym, and that'll be the back of the back of the room.
The kitchen will be the back of the room.
Right.
So if you come in those doors by the kitchen, you'll be entering from the back. And speaking of doors, for the last 2 weeks, we've kept those double doors at both ends of the newer building locked, and asked everybody to come in the main doors under the portico.
Yep.
And now that we've trained you to do that, we're going to lock the doors under the portico and unlock the other ones and ask you to come in down on that end of the building this point, so that we can just kind of all stay down there.
Gee, thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Good change.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Well, we thought we'd throw just one more thing.
One more thing while we're at it. Yes. Very good. And to that, we appreciate everyone's flexibility. Overall, everyone has been very agreeable and workable with all we're doing, and we are very thankful for everyone understanding that, like everyone else, we are doing the best we can under the circumstances, making the best decisions that we can, trying to minimize the amount of change within reason here. So anyway.
So just a couple other quick things.
Yep.
We're not going to have food or drinks, so bring your own coffee.
Yes.
Please don't bring food, but bring your own coffee. That's great.
Right.
We're not going to have childcare, no nursery. The children are welcome in the worship service.
Right.
We do really appreciate them. It was so cute when Brooklyn came up.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.
She did that on her own. At first I thought her parents had sent her, but no, she just took off on her own. She wanted that squirrel. And I was perfectly happy to give it to her.
Yep. I'm sure you were.
So-
I'm sure you were.
Yeah, so we just reminders of those. But I appreciate, John, your time here today that
Yep.
we could just kind of discuss these things a little bit. And I echo your words that people's flexibility,
Mhm.
and they've kept a great attitude through this.
Yep.
And they really have encouraged one another and reached
Mhm.
out. And that makes me happy and makes me proud to be a part of this congregation.
Right. Yep. The one last thing we should not forget is we want to do want to remind everybody about that the live stream continues even with this
Yes.
change. That will still be a thing, and we plan on that for indefinite. That will go on indefinitely.
That's going to be a permanent part
That's
of
a
what we do
permanent part.
from this
Yep.
point forward.
Absolutely. So,
All right. Thanks, John.
excellent. Yep.